Good afternoon and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. We are excited to have over 200 registered attendees for today's webinar, which is eligible for 1 credit from the ACI. Let's get started by giving one lucky attendee a Webinar Wednesday lunch bag for answering this trivia question. Which city and state will the AAMI Conference and Expo be held in June? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard. While you're answering, I want to invite everyone to join us for the Spring MD Expo conference, which will bring HTM professionals from across the nation to Nashville from April 4th to 6th for 3 days of learning, networking, and the latest advances in technology, products, and services. Registration is now open, and details can be found at mdexposhow.com/Nashville. Okay, let's see who our winner is. And it is, here we go, Dan Kosh. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Congratulations, Dan. The correct answer is Long Beach, California. Webinar Wednesday would like to thank AAMI. The Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation is a non-profit organization founded in 1967. It is a diverse community of approximately 7,000 professionals united by one important mission: the development, management, and use of safe and effective health technology. AAMI is the primary source of consensus standards, both national and international, for the medical device industry, as well as practical information, support, and guidance for healthcare technology and sterilization professionals. Visit aami.org for more information. Our presenter today is Martin McLaughlin, Program Manager of ACI Certification at AAMI. Martin, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being on the webinar today. Looks like the numbers are still climbing, which is fantastic. Congrats to Dan for winning the webinar trivia question. I hope to see you in Long Beach, since you clearly know where it's going to be. My name is MJ McLaughlin, and I am the Manager of Certification at AAMI. I've been in the position for about 2.5 years, and a lot has changed in that time. And yeah, I hope we can cover a lot today in the changes in both the renewal policies and the BMET exam updates for the new forms in 2018, and the process that went behind all of that. This is a little bit about AAMI as an association, which was covered in the intro. Our main mission is patient safety, and we do our best to reach that through our standards, our education, and our certifications. You know, a lot of what we do on the back end isn't really seen outwardly. We're only a staff of 45. The certification department alone is only 2 of the 45, yet we have roughly 4,800 individuals who are actively certified. And I'm guessing that a majority of you on the call today are either certified yourselves or are interested in becoming certified, and hopefully after this webinar you'll know a little more than you did before. The programs that we offer are listed here. There are a total of 6. The top 3 are our BMET related certification programs. Those are the ones that we'll be covering a lot today when it comes to the exam alterations and the job task analysis that we did throughout the year of 2017. The Certified Healthcare Technology Manager and Quality System Manager are our 2 management level certifications that were introduced within the last 2 or 3 years. They are different from the BMET certification programs as eligibility requirements go. If you're looking at them as tiers, the top 3 BMET certs are semi-entry level, and the management level certifications are a class above that. And if you have the handbook, which you can download online at aami.org, you can see that there are different eligibility requirements for each of those as far as education or experience in the field goes. The last one on the list here is the Certified Industrial Sterilization Specialist, which we just launched in December of last year. It has a different format than the other ones, whereas the top 5 are a single exam, and the CISS is 2 steps. There's a core exam that consists of 75 questions, and then there are 3 specialty exams that you would have to take in order to become certified. The specialties are ethylene oxide, moist heat, and radiation. So if you're looking at it, there's the core exam, and then you have to take one of the 3 specialties in order to get those letters behind your name. So we can dive in now to the recertification policy changes. These all went into effect last year, and starting January of this year are official. The big shift was the points to CEU format. For those of you who have been certified and have gone through the cycles in the past, you are familiar with the 15-point system that we previously had. The initial shift away from points to CEUs started in conversation about 2 years ago when we were trying to figure out exactly how many hours went into those 15 points that we were requiring. And it was pretty hard to determine. There was a range of between 90 and 120 hours that went into those 15 points. And compared to other certification programs, that was quite a lot. So we decided to break away from the points and to go for CEUs, which are basically 1 hour equals 1 CEU. So the 30 CEUs that are now required with the new policy, even though 30 is double 15, it's only a fraction of what we required in the past. For a 1 hour webinar that you're going to be on today, with the new policy, that's equal to 1 of your 30 CEUs that you need over a 3-year span. In the past, that 1 hour webinar was only 1/10 of a point. So that alone right there, you can see you're getting more value in webinars and in in-person programs with the CEU format as opposed to the point system. And we'll go in depth a little more later on in this presentation. 2017 renewals. For those of you who are on this call who have not submitted your journals for 2017, you have the option to choose the old policy or the new policy because it went into effect mid-cycle. Hoping that everybody who is certified on this call has already submitted their journals that were due last year. If not, there's still time. You have until the end of this year to get that in. Otherwise, if you're renewing in 2018 or any years in the future, it's new policy only. The audit system is something that we put into place last year. We receive roughly 1,500 journals every year for people who are renewing, who are on that same 3-year cycle. And it's quite difficult for our small team and our ACI board and volunteers to sift through those properly. So what we've decided to do was pull 10% of each renewing class. And if you were polled for the audits, or if you are polled in the future, all we're requiring is that for every CEU that you claimed, there's some type of supporting document. And we'll talk about that later as well, what a supporting document is for each CEU. The online journal, as of right now, is not up and running. It will be up and available for all certified individuals to use in 2018. We took it down back in 2015 and have had a hard time getting it back up with the new renewal policy that we put into effect, and we're in the final stages of that. So bear with us, and in the meantime, if you are due in 2018, you want to get a jump start, or you want to start tracking points for your cycle, you can click on the link here for the writable PDF that you can download under the resources field on that page. It's just AAMI.org/recertification. So for category 1 of the new policy, it is to earn an additional and relevant certification. In the old policy, we did not have this as a main category. This was something that would have potentially been claimed under self-study. But now we're putting a lot of emphasis on earning an additional certification as an opportunity to earn CEUs. One thing to keep in mind is, in order to actually gain CEUs for this activity, for this category, the certification has to have been earned within that 3-year cycle that you're renewing. So if you're a CBET and you got your CBET in 2000 and then you got your CRES in 2005, if you're renewing in 2018, you can't use the additional earning of that CRES as a earning of an additional certification, because it didn't happen within your 3 years. So make sure that that it's timely. The one thing that I'll mention, since I talked about self-study, that's the one area that we removed from the journal. The reason being is, in order for us to maintain a high level of integrity for the recertification program, we need to be able to verify that every CEU that was claimed was actually done. And in the past, a lot of people would claim subscriptions to magazines, or claim that they read books, or they watched 700 hours of YouTube tutorials. And while that's all great, it's hard for us to really determine whether or not that benefited you and if it was actually done. Not that we think anybody's a liar. We know everybody is extremely honest on their journals, but we want to be able to double check. So the self-study area has been removed, but because there's a lot of stuff that you can do on your own that should be worth CEUs, we've added some categories, such as the earning of an additional certification. Category 2 is leadership roles. So this is a cumulative CEU. So for every year that you are involved in a society role or a hospital committee, or any of the activities listed here as examples, you want to do a cumulative tally of the hours that you put into each of these projects per year, and that's how the CEUs will reflect. So for instance, if you're part of an item writing committee with AAMI, and you put in 10 hours a year, that would only be the 2 CEUs per year. So you could, if it's for 3 years that you're part of that committee, you got 6 CEUs right there for your journal. If it's something that's a little more intense, where you're putting 30+ hours per year, then you can get the 4 CEUs per year with a maximum of 15. So keep in mind that each of these categories do have a max. For category 1, it also has a max of 15. The other big thing with category 2 is that's different from the old policy, is that we no longer gain or give CEUs or points for individuals who are just members of societies. In the past, we would give, I believe it was a ½ point per year of membership for associations, even AAMI being one of those associations. We wanted to stray away from that because it was more of a pay-to-play type thing. We didn't want people to pay for their CEUs. We want you to be active. The whole point of a recertification program is to make sure that you're constantly developing as a professional. And by paying a renewal fee or having your company pay for a renewal fee and just keeping that card in your wallet doesn't necessarily give us anything. So we want to make sure that you're active. So instead of just being a member of AAMI, we want you to be involved in writing for us or be on a committee. Same goes for other HTM associations or groups. So for category 3 here is the development of educational content, which kind of goes along with what I was saying in becoming active in category 2. You know, a lot of the issues in past years of people who were getting to December of their renewing year and saying, I don't have enough points, I don't know what to do, my company won't provide any funding for courses. And you know, usually, since there's only 2 of us and I'm the low end of the totem pole, I got all of those calls. So I really had to put out a lot of fires, and that's why we really wanted to shift to this new policy, because you know, if you are under the funding constraint, you don't have the money to go to courses, you know, you could always write. You can write for AAMI's publications, for our AAMI News, for our BINT, or for Horizons. You could write for other magazines as well. You'll see the breakdown here. If you write for an item for ACI, so a test item, then it's for every 5 items you get a CEU. What that means is we have a pool of exam questions that we house, and there's tons of them. So if for whatever reason one of our exam forms becomes jeopardized, if there is some talk of cheating, or that somebody had taken pictures of the form and the questions had gotten out, we have to act very quickly in pulling that form, pulling it down and adding a new form with completely new questions. So we always have this generating pool of items that people are submitting, subject matter experts are submitting, that we kind of keep housed. So that's an option right there. If you need to crank out some CEUs, you know, write some items for us and send them in, and you got it right there. There's no money involved in that. Same goes for publishing technical articles or writing a book. Again, these have to be HTM related. You could write a book about why Paul McCartney is the best Beatle, and if I see that on your journal, because I agree with you, I might give you the CEUs, but for the most part, that probably won't fly. Again, you'll see a key point down here. Blog entries do not qualify for CEUs. You know, a lot of those social media posts is, you know, you talking to yourself, which is, it's all great, but we can't give you points for that. Can't give you CEUs. Category 4 is professional development, and this is a big one. You'll notice down at the bottom there's no max, and it's the only category that actually does have a minimum. So when you're submitting your journal for your 3-year period and you need to hit those 30 CEUs, at least half of them has to be from category 4. And that seems daunting at first, especially when we go back to the idea of not having as much funding from your employer to attend courses. But that's where you can earn the CEUs through free webinars. You know, the Webinar Wednesdays are a fantastic way to earn your CEUs for free, limited time. While you're eating your tuna sandwich, you can get a CEU, and not really have to worry about losing any money on it. The old policy for this category, we didn't really put a lot of power behind the courses that you would attend. The example I like to give people to ease their worry about the 30 to 15 ratio is, in the past, with the point system, if you attended the AAMI show and you went, you know, sat through the sessions for all 3 days, you could only earn 1.5 points for all the hours that you put in, because the way that it was it broke down was a half a point per day for a course. Well, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you pay a lot of money to go to the AAMI show or to any type of show, and if you're only earning 10% of your 3-year points max or minimum, sorry, for that one course, you're not really getting a lot out of it. Well, with the new policy, it's all based on the hour. So I know last year the maximum that you could earn with 17 CEUs for attending the AAMI show if you went to all the educational sessions that you possibly could. And that right there is more than half of what you need for the 3-year recertification cycle. So if you attended 2 AAMI shows in 3 years and went to as many of the education sessions as you could, you're done with your 3-year journal right there, and you don't have to worry about anything else. And that's something that, you know, think of it less as, well, I can't spend the money to go to a course, and more as, well, I can sit down for a free webinar. I'm sure a lot of your companies probably do have different vendor presentations or in-services that you attend throughout the year that you can document and you can use in this category. Category 5 is another new one that we've added, is the college or university courses. We have a lot of people, since this is CBETs, or the BMET certifications are fairly entry level, and a lot of people are trying to craft their careers. They go back to school, and the courses that they take during their 3-year renewal cycles, they can claim as CEUs. Again, as long as the courses are relevant and to the field, and as long as they get a C or higher in the courses. So for Category 5, a good example of a documentation of proof when they're submitting their journals would be either a diploma if they've graduated, and also some transcripts. We need to see that they attended classes that were relevant to the HTM field and that they received the C or higher. If you're attending the course, you get 1 CEU for every 10 hours of class time. And then if you're teaching the course, it's 3 CEUs for every 10 hours of class time. All right, the last category here is Category 6, which is the work experience. With the point system, I believe it was, you got 1 point per year of employment. With this new system, it's 1.5 CEUs per year, and the maximum here is 6. So that's if you had a full-time job and you got your 4.5, and then you were also part-time somewhere else, and you could accumulate another 1.5 in that area. So the max that you could earn in Category 6 is 6. A lot of people are sneaky in this category, and if they've been employed for 30 years as a full-time BMET, they would claim 30 points, which is that's a gutsy move there. But we can only claim the work experience for the 3-year cycle, and that goes for every category. If it's something that you did outside of the 3-year range, don't even bother putting it on your journal, because it's the first thing that'll be flagged, and we'll black it out. So before I jump into the job analysis update here, which is the second portion of the webinar, I wanted to talk about the proof of CEUs when you do submit your journal. If you go back, for the Category 1, which was the earning of an additional or relevant certification, obviously when you get that certification, you get a certificate or some type of card or letter stating that you're certified with a date on it. As long as you can photocopy that and attach it to your journal, that's enough proof for anything in Category 1. Leadership roles, which was if you're involved in an HTM society or a hospital committee, typically there's an online roster for those, or you have some sign-in sheets for your monthly or quarterly meetings. You can have those photocopied and sent in as well, and that would work for leadership roles. Under the development of educational content, such as writing items for ACI or writing a technical article, obviously if you can just get a copy of whatever article you had that was published, that states your name as the author or co-author, and submit that with your journal, that would be more than enough verification. As for Category 4 with professional development, I know with this webinar and most webinars, whether they're archived or real-time, you'll receive some type of certificate of completion at the end of it. You know, I highly recommend if this is the angle that you're taking with webinars, you know, open up a folder on your desktop and just every time you get a certificate PDF, just drag it over there and just keep compiling them, because you don't want to scramble at the end of your 3-year cycle and maybe miss some certificates. So for Category 4 with professional development, if it's a webinar, a certificate of completion, if it's an in-person program that you went to, educational class, or a vendor school, typically they will give you a certificate at the end as well. If not, a lot of times you can reach out to the host organization and have them write a letter for you, essentially stating that you attended this course on this date at this location, and have them sign that and send it in to us. But for the most part, you're going to be getting certificates at some of these courses that you can hold on to, scan, and pop them in that same folder. For the college or university courses, as I said, we would want a diploma, copy of the diploma plus a copy of your transcripts. And then for work experience, that's an easy one. There's the signature page on the last page of the journal is one that you'll need to sign as the recertifying individual, and then your supervisor's signature. And that's essentially our validation that you were employed or are currently employed, and you can claim those CEUs for the work experience. So that about covers the changes to the recertification policy. So let's jump over to part 2, which is the BMET exam update and the job analysis. For those of you who don't know what a job analysis is, job task analysis, it's something that certification programs need to do every 3 to 5 years, depending on the content. For us, since it's healthcare technology management, it's something that is changing quite rapidly. So we would need to be doing these job task analysis quite frequently to make sure that we're testing on the right stuff. With different devices coming out and different practices and the overload of information technology in the HTM field, this is something that we'll be doing every 3 to 5 years to make sure that we're testing people on the right stuff. Step 1 was realizing that there was a need for it. It had been quite a few years. Myself and the director, Sherry, started in 2015, and it was something that hadn't been done in a while when we started. So after we got our feet dug in and started to really understand the programs, we started to realize that there was a need for it. So we pulled together a group of subject matter experts back in February of last year, and we brought them into the AAMI offices, and we locked the doors and told them that they needed to take a look at the old content outline for each of the 3 BMET exams and fix them. You know, take off some of the subcategories that were no longer relevant and add some that needed some extra attention. So they sat there and they spent a couple days really diving into the content outlines for the CBET, the CLES, and the CRES exams. And they pulled together 3 really good content outlines. If anybody looked at some of the old ones that were in our handbook for the previous exam forms, they might notice that they were pretty broad. We didn't really dive into the details of each category. For example, if it was anatomy and physiology, there would be a section called body parts, and it would say heart. So, you know, if you didn't know what we wanted, you would expect that we wanted you to know everything there was to know about the heart. So the new outlines for these 3 BMET exams are a little more detailed. So, it's heart function, and it breaks down each category so that you know what to study for. It's not going to be a surprise when you sit down for the exam. So once they got together and they developed these updated outlines, our next step was to survey the BMET population, which means we put together this massive survey, and some of you may have even gotten it, where it broke down the content outline that was suggested, and some of the key points. And we reached out to hundreds of BMETs in our database, both individuals who were certified and were not, just to kind of get a wide range, a wide feel of what everybody wanted, what everybody felt was necessary as a minimal competency is what they said. Something that if you're going to be considered a CBET, or if you're going to be considered a CRES, you have to know at least this much information, which was an interesting tactic. But the key points were frequency and criticality. So for each job performance that was in question on the survey, they had to judge the frequency and criticality in their job. And then what we did was we pulled all the data from that survey and we gave it to our psychometricians, who were able to take all the information and figure out if what some of the common themes were. And it was, they took into consideration the region, the background, the education levels of the individuals who were responding to the survey, their primary job functions. And what they were able to spit out for us was, an idea of whether the general population of BMETs that we surveyed, how they felt in comparison to the select group of subject matter experts that we had sit through the 3-day session in February. And what they found was that there weren't many differences in what our subject matter experts had discovered and what the general BMET population said. So they both were kind of moving in the same direction when it came to subcategories and the content outlines. We can go ahead and talk about some of the different changes. Overall, there weren't a lot of shifts in subcategories and importance. You'll notice here for the CBET exam that the things that changed across the board, healthcare information technology was bumped up in all 3 BMET exams. And that wasn't too surprising. That's the one area that is constantly growing and changing, and it's the one that needs to be a primary focus. And these are some of the examples for the BMET or the CBET exam that were changed. So you'll notice again for the individuals who had seen the old outline, that looking at these new snips of the current outline, it's a little more detailed. It gives you some direction, and whereas the other one didn't. So the other one would just say heart, lung, and certain organs, whereas this one is saying you need to identify the components and functions of these organs. So you'll see that these are they're not too drastic of changes. They might be things that you agree with, and obviously anything in this presentation that you see that you have strong feelings for, against, we would love to hear from you. This is the CLES exam, Certified Laboratory Equipment Specialist. You'll notice that they actually changed, they're the only ones that changed one of these subcategories completely. They said that anatomy and physiology wasn't the correct term. For these individuals that were being tested, it should be biology and chemistry, and that it wasn't as important as the other ones. So we actually removed items from that category and bumped them over to the healthcare information technology. They had to jump from 10% to 18%. So again, it's HIT is hot, and it's going to continue to be hot in healthcare technology management. Therefore, our exams need to reflect that. That was our big takeaway from the job task analysis, and is something that we'll see in the future exams. To ease anyone's minds, even though our exam has changed, the outlines have changed, the content has changed, you don't need to retest. I know a lot of people were freaked out when they saw that there were exam changes. They thought that meant that maybe the old one was moot and they had to retest. That is not what it means. As long as you maintain your recertification cycle, you will never have to take this test again. This is the last one here, the CRES, Certified Radiology Equipment Specialist. You'll see the similar trend, even more so in the healthcare information technology field, where they bumped from 10 to 20%. And they took some off of the anatomy and physiology, public safety, and fundamentals of electricity and electronics. And here are some of the examples for those shifts. And again, the culmination of this entire project, which has taken roughly a year, has been this last step, which was in November. We had another group of subject matter experts. Some of them were from the first session back in February. Some of them were new. They came to the AAMI offices, and we locked them again in the same dimly lit room with some pencils and paper, and we told them, right. So we said, here are the new outlines. Here's what our psychometricians gave back to us. They pulled all the data from these hundreds of BMETs and the subject matter experts. These are the outlines, and we need questions. So they sat and they wrote hundreds of questions for us that we could then put into this new item pool and develop new forms. So one of the things that we do every month is our different certification committees. So our CBET, CRES, and CLES have exam review committees, and every month we just we shuffle through those pools of exam questions to make sure that they're fresh and they're up to date in real time. So what they've been doing for us is they've taken all these new core questions and they've reviewed them, they've cleaned them up, made sure that they're at perfect levels of difficulty, and we have put together a new form. So for each of these 3 programs, we have 3 new test forms that will be launched in May, and yeah, it was great to see a job task analysis in full effect and the full life cycle, because we're in the final stretch. All we got to do is hit the button and launch in May, and we're good to go, which is extremely refreshing. It's good to know that we have a solid product here with these new exams, and that we're testing on the most up-to-date items in the HTM field. So that about does it for these items here, and I know that we have some questions that came in prior to the webinar, and I'm sure that there's been a few that have come in during the presentation, so I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you so much, Martin. Yes, we have had quite a few come in, so I will start with the ones that were submitted prior to the webinar. The first one is, I received my certification in May 2017. What are my 2018 and 2019 CEU requirements? Okay,
so one thing, if you're out there listening and you ask this question, or anybody has this similar question, you're going to want to go and if you have any recertification or renewal questions, the short link to the web page that has the breakdowns and the requirements is www.aami.org/recertification. What that page will tell you is that if you were certified in 2017 and you passed as a full status certificant, you have the remainder of 2017 plus the following year, plus all of 2018 as your, we consider it a bit of a grace period. So you don't have to accrue any CEUs in that period, but what you do have to do is by the end of the grace period, so by December 31st of 2018, you'll be required to submit your renewal payment for the following 3-year cycle that you'll be entered in. So in September of this year, you'll be getting an invoice, and it'll be for your 2019 through 2021 recertification cycle. We always require payment on the front end. So once you submit the payment for that cycle, you're going to want to start accumulating your CEUs January 1st of 2019 through December 31st, 2021. So there's no CEUs required before that 3-year window.
Okay, great. And another one is, can ACI accept military biomedical engineer certificates to qualify to be a CBET? Yep.
So you know, if you're interested in taking any of our certification programs, again, if you go to AAMI.org/ACI, you can see on the right-hand side a list of all of our programs, and each page has a link to the application. Each application has, on page 2, section G, a list of eligibility requirements, different options that you can select that will prove to us that you're eligible to sit for the exam. There's for each of our programs, there are military discipline backgrounds that are eligible. For instance, if you're interested in taking your CBET under candidate status, option 2, the completion of a U.S. military biomedical equipment technology program alone will make you eligible to sit as a candidate. If you have the that same program diploma, so the U.S. military biomedical equipment technology program plus 2 years of full-time BMET work experience, then you'll be eligible to sit as a full status certificate.
Okay, that's great. Another attendee said, I would like to know what it would take to make certification more of a requirement to work in this field.
If you figure that out, please call me and let me know, because that's something that we're trying on a daily basis to get into the ears of HR departments and hospitals and then refurbishing companies, because certification should be a requirement. Just as a driver's license is necessary for you to get behind a wheel, you know, because patient safety is our mission, knowing that the individuals who have their hands on certain medical devices in the hospitals, we want to know that those people are certified and that they should be working on those devices. Right now, it's not a requirement. It's suggested. There are some hospital systems that do value certification, and in order to be a BMET 3, they make ACI certification mandatory. Other ones will say that you can work without being certified, but if you do become certified, we'll bump your pay up $1 an hour. It's a wide range right now, and it's something that we're really hoping in the future certain regulations come out that do make ACI certification an overall requirement, because it's something that would help the employers, and it would definitely guarantee patient safety.
Okay, great. Can you explain a bit more about a retirement or an inactive status?
Yeah, absolutely. So for any individuals who are currently certified and who have left the field or have retired completely, rather than losing your certification, we do provide an option of going either emeritus or retired status. There's a very simple form that you can download online. If you go to our ACI page, AAMI.org/ACI, on the right-hand side of the page, there's a link that says Certification Resource Library. Within that library, that's where we house all of our forms, and the second to the last one on that list is called a status change form. So if you can submit that form to us before your certification goes inactive, we can shift your designation to either emeritus or retired. There's 2 eligibility paths for each of those. If you do go emeritus, it's a lifetime designation. There's no payment, there's no renewal necessary. You just get a card, and if you're a CBET, it'll say CBET E, and it never expires. If you want to go retired and you don't meet the eligibility requirements for emeritus, you never need to submit CEUs for continuing practice. However, every 3 years, you are required to submit a fee of $25. And then what that'll do is that'll maintain your CBET-R designation. If you go inactive, let's say you were certified and you forgot to renew and it's been over a year, your certification has gone inactive and has been revoked. In that case, and you want to come back to it, you will have to retest. So you would need to resubmit an application and retest just like you did to earn it initially. Unfortunately, that's the only way back into an active certification status if you have let it revoked.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question about vendor school. Can you go a little deeper into that part of the renewal?
Yep. So for vendor schools, again, it's all based on the CEU format. So it's hour to hour, and it's anything that you do would be categorized under Category 4, professional development. So if you are to attend a vendor presentation or a vendor school, essentially you just want to track the hours that you sat and that you listened. If there's unfortunately, if there's an expo, even for the AAMI conference, if there's an expo hours where you're bouncing around the hall and you're talking to different exhibitors, you cannot claim points for those hours because they're technically not educational. We want you to have, be seated or be in front of an instructor who is presenting to a certain point or on a certain content area, a certain subject. Again, for those hours that you sit in a vendor presentation or a vendor school, typically you'll get some type of certification or some type of acknowledgement through the host organization or through your employer that you attended this, whether it's a sign-in, sign-out sheet, or if it's, if you lost your stuff, you can contact them and have them write up a letter that you attended, that you participated in this vendor presentation on, this date on this topic with this presenter, and we'll accept that as validation that you were actually there. But again, it's all hour to CEU based.
Okay, that's great. Let's see what else we've got here. Would an English class required for AS count towards the CEU? So
that's tough. You're asking the tough questions here. So again, that would be under Category 5, which is college or university courses. The way that I explain this to people is if it's a college course and it is something that is going to help you, directly. I mean, if English is not your first language and you're in the United States and you're working as a BMET and you're taking an English class, you could spin it that is helping you professionally as a BMET. And I would say claim it. Worst case scenario, we get your journal and the reviewer looks at it and says, nah, I don't think we're going to accept that as a valid CEU. And if that's the case, you could always appeal and go into a little more detail on why you think that course benefited you professionally as an HTM. Again, it's how you spin it on your journal, and you also, this is a little off topic, but you always want to claim more than what we request. So if the minimum is 30, and you're uncertain about something like an English course, qualifying as CEUs, maybe you should do a little more than 30 just to be safe, so that if for whatever reason that English course is not approved by the reviewer, you're still safe. But I would say that something like that, something like accounting, just recently somebody had submitted a journal and they claimed a university course for accounting, and we accepted it because they said that they do that in their daily job as a BMET. So something like that, it could qualify as long as you can spin it properly.
Okay, that's great. Another question is a union steward a leadership role and qualify for points?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
It said, is a union steward a leadership role, in quote marks, and qualify for points?
So something like that, I know that if you look down, if you have the guide in front of you, or you pull up the guide, which is under it's attached to the writable PDF of the new journal. For category 2, the last item there, I can scroll back to it, is the volunteer activities or missions. That we added that there to kind of be an all-encompassing, any type of extra leadership. Actually, it's not in here, so I apologize. Role that you might have in the HTM field that's not covered in either an HTM society role or a hospital committee or any of the other things that are listed. If it's a role that you have with the union, then I would say, again, claim it, and then it would be cumulative under the leadership role. So however many hours you put into that role would decide how many CEUs you get per year for it. Again, this goes back to the last question. It's how you spin it. It's if you're able to say that in those hours that you put into that role, that you're learning and you're developing professionally as an HTM, then we'll absolutely accept it.
Okay, that's great. Will there be an updated study guide practice test?
Yep. So right now we're actually in the works. The CHTM designation was launched 2.5 years ago, and last year we released a study guide that was available for purchase on our website, and it had great reviews. It was finally something that we could produce and provide to the test takers so that they could feel a little more confident on the exam. Now that we've rewritten the exam forms for the BMET related certifications, the CBET, CRS, and CLES, we are working on developing a study guide for those. It's going to probably come in the form of a class, whether it's in person or webinar. We will have something out for that. Right now, the BMET study guide, which is the CD-ROM that can be purchased online, while it's not a direct study guide for either of the 3 exams, what it does do is it covers the content of the field. It's something that's available on our website. A lot of people have downloaded it or purchased it, and it's helped them in preparation. Other people, they say that they've downloaded it as a study guide, and when they took the test, they were hoping to see replicas of questions, and they didn't. And that's that's something that we tell everybody, is that you're not going to see the same questions on the study guide that you'll see on the exam. Doing that would tarnish the integrity of the exam. But yeah, to answer the question, there will be some study materials for the new exam form. But as for right now, we highly recommend just looking over that new detailed content outline, which is in the handbook, which you can download online, and then looking at the list of references that are also in the handbook, and kind of working out your own study guide based on those 2 documents. If you need anything extra, there's all kinds of study classes that HTM state societies put on that you can look online to see if there's anything near you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Martin. We're coming up to our allocation, so Any questions we haven't had time for Martin to answer, we will be emailing to him directly after the webinar, so please expect a response from Martin at some stage. So I'd like to thank you, Martin, again for such a great and informative webinar, and thank you also to Amy. One lucky attendee will win an Amazon gift card for completing the post-webinar survey, which will appear on your screen shortly. Now, you must complete the survey to be able to receive your certificate of attendance. If you are unable to see the survey, please email us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. For more information about our future webinars, please visit webinarwednesday.live. Hope to see you again next week, and have a great day.